Well, viewers, first up now, the BRS is under heavy fire after its former task force DCP Radhakrishnan Rao was arrested on charges of alleged involvement in the threatening of people. This includes, of course, private and people in public life after tapping their mobile phones and trying to extort money from them. The Telangana phone tapping case involves gathering electronic data not just for political intelligence, but to blackmail leaders and even private companies and Tollywood celebrities as well. Former Telangana Intelligence Bureau Chief T. Prabhakar Rao is the main accused in the case and is currently absconding. Based on a complaint that was filed by an additional superintendent of police from the Special Intelligence Bureau, a case has been now registered against Praneeth Rao and others for criminal breach of trust, causing disappearance of evidence and even criminal conspiracy among other charges. Now, Union Minister and BJP Telangana President G. Kishan Reddy had earlier demanded a judicial inquiry into the allegations of phone tapping, alleging that phones of not only politicians but also officials and businessmen were also tapped by some of the police officers who acted like a mafia. The BJP alleges this was all done during the tenure of the previous BRS government, without permission, of course, from the Home Ministry, he claims. Now, remember, viewers, the phones of the current Chief Minister, Revant Reddy, and members of the BJP, the Congress, and others were allegedly tapped, and information was reportedly shared with the then ruling BRS government. Let me open this up. Dinakar Lanka BJP leaders joining us today. PK Jain, former IPS officer, George Kurian, political analyst, Syed Asad Abbas, political analyst, as well with us today on this broadcast. I'm going to take this across to Dinakar Lanka first. Mr. Lanka, if you could really break this down. You're saying that the BRS used police officers to tap mobile phones. Right now, of course, this is a matter that's currently under investigation. Is it too premature to really comment on these lines, or is there enough evidence to prove the same?
It is absolutely known fact. The head of the institute in the government, chief minister, the mindset of the chief minister flows as the mindset of the authorities who are functioning as per the instruction of the head of the institute, as well as the party in which in governance. It becomes unfortunate in the state of Telangana. Public servants shall not function their duties against to the rule book, as per the whims and fancies of the power people in the power. Dynasty and the family parties like TRS, now we are calling it as BRS, have been the biggest threat for the independence and the freedom of the people who are whoever they are in the government, like the TRS, and we are experiencing similar kind of habituate in Andhra Pradesh also right now, Jagan Mohan Reddy government also. State Intelligence Bureau, already DSPs, additional SPs, task for police personals had been arrested in this probe. Let you see that private people data also tapped through their phone data. They collected the data utilized to threatening them for extorting money, film stars, big business people, apart from the politicians. Even politicians, not only opposition parties, even their internal TRS or BRS party leaders' phones also get tapped. Ministers' phones got trapped. This becomes a very big conspiracy, which was violated the rules. If any government seeks any kind of phone trap, Ministry of Home Affairs approval is mandatory. But there is no such kind of approvals. Definitely judicial inquiry should be held. Guilty should be punished. Apart from that, truth should come. For whom this money extorted, for whom this information has gathered, for whom direction all these things happen should be get exposed. Definitely, we are making a comment that it is the biggest scandal in South India. It becomes it is under KCR. Only all these things happened. Both private parties and the political leaders had victimized under these processes.
Okay.
It is nothing but attack on freedom of living of the people. It is the constitutional violation as well as such kind of governance should not happen in any state. We saw the threatening of MLAs, MPs, ministers, and opposition parties. How he
Okay,
was
Mr. Lanka.
used
Okay.
various tools to gather this data. We had so many times we countered when we was in opposition during the regime of KCR between
Okay, Mr.
2014 and
Lankana, snooping on political
2023.
rivals is not new. We've seen that happen in multiple states. We've seen allegations like this being leveled even at the center, and there has been a lot of controversy surrounding this. Interestingly, here the name of the current chief minister also features in that list, where he could be a potential victim to snooping. But interesting, the Congress has refrained from commenting on the same at this point. I'm going to go to Mr. George Kurian. What do you make of this entire controversy? The BRS as well not wanting to really comment at this juncture. The investigation is currently going on. Would you right now really want to call this snooping on political rivals?
Well, Deepak, very good evening to you, to my co-panelists on the show, and to your audience. Let me begin by saying, that's something that of this serious nature that is coming, getting unfolded and coming to public domain is a cause for worry. And we are sure that, in the last 10 years of BRS and KCR's regime in the state of Telangana, things have been taken for granted. Something as serious as these phone tapping of businessmen, individuals and politicians from the opposition bloc to be tapped to extort money or for political pressure, bringing them political pressure and things like that. So this is really uncalled for. This is actually, public servants causing disappearance and evidence causing criminal conspiracy. There is a very serious kind of a nature where this, and I'm sure that as the investigation progresses, more things will come to the fore and things will be more clearer. As far as the Telangana Congress government is concerned, we are sure that we will keep this investigation as transparent as possible and without any giving any benefit of doubt to anybody in this case.
Okay. Fair enough, but I'll also bring in the former IPS officer who's with us, Mr. PK Jain. Mr. Jain, if you could put this into perspective, as far as when there are governments in power, in your years of experience, is it common to get requests to snoop on political rivals, to snoop on businessmen and any persons of interest, especially for a government?
Hi, good evening, Deepak. I would say that this has become more of a norm rather than an exception. The information gathering business has gone to this level that unless you get some kind of a technical intelligence in the form of either snooping or phone tapping, etc., it becomes difficult to get the inside information. There are a lot of political developments, a lot of criminal developments, a lot of law and order ramifications. So there are areas where the phone tapping can be done legally after obtaining a proper sanction from the concerned authority. And there are areas, because we have these snooping tools, there are areas where snooping becomes absolutely illegal. You've already seen the case of the Delhi government.
What's the procedure? Mr. Jain, if you could tell our viewers, what is the procedure for a government to really, tap into somebody's phone? And, after you tell us the procedure, tell us the protocol to be followed at the government level or at the police level, so that there is transparency that's maintained, so that, it does not become as if, they're snooping or they're, tapping phones at the behest of any leader, any government.
See, now in this case, you see, the officer who had retired from the SIB was reappointed as the consultant to the government, and there are officers who were willing to oblige the government. In my opinion, one of the remedies that could now take place is, see, that these things will continue unless there's some kind of a very strong action is taken. In my opinion, the people who were recipient of this information were aware that this information is coming from phone tapping. So I would personally feel that even the Home Minister or the Chief Minister, whoever was recipient of this information, should also be made an accused in this case. So we always get down to the police officers who are more vulnerable because they have to carry out somebody's beck and call, and it becomes difficult in the police department to survive without being on the right side of the political leadership. We've seen a number
So
of
hence
cases
I'm
where the
asking
officers
you,
have
what
been
is the
victimized.
process and what's the protocol to be followed here, Mr. Jain? If you could tell us that, we could probably get a clearer picture as to what kind of pressure they're in. But give us a little bit more perspective. What is the process to be followed here when you have to tap somebody's phone? And what is the protocol that needs to be followed by a police officer?
See, the intelligence chief can give the permission for phone tapping for 24 hours. Beyond that, if the phone tapping has to be done, it has to go to the Home Secretary. The Home Secretary has to authorize the phone tapping of a particular individual or a set of individuals. It may be a running crime situation, it may be a law and order situation, it may be something to do with the public safety. So, and there also there are limits. He can also grant permission for phone tapping for a particular period. After that, if the phone tapping is required to be done, then again a second permission, a continuation, for continuation, some permission has to be sought. So the procedure has been well laid down in the under the Indian Telegraph Act, and the courts have pronounced various judgments because this is directly impinging on the right to privacy. So the Supreme Court has also come down heavily on this, that nobody's phone can be tapped unless proper protocol is followed, as you said, taking permission from the Home Secretary. So that is the procedure. If anybody violates that, if anybody goes beyond 24 hours.
Okay, so if there is this protocol in place, are there, okay, if there is this protocol that you mentioned in place, how are there any protocols also to protect people from being victims of illegal phone tapping? Because if there is a chain of command that needs to be followed, and when it's done without this chain of command, how does identification happen really here? Is there a possible way?
No, it becomes very difficult. So it has to be an internal audit mechanism where the senior officer from the department who's in charge of this equipment has to ensure and has to see as to what kind of phones are being tapped. As you have in this case only, Mr. Lanka has just mentioned, it has happened at other places also, that eventually the snooping team also snoops on the mobile phones or phones of some individuals who may be businessmen, who may be people of a high profile, and they can be blackmailed or for their own financial gains, etc. So the officer who's in charge of the snooping mechanism has to ensure by various checks and methods, by making entries in the logbook, etc., as to whose all phones are being tapped, and whether all those phones being tapped, proper authorization has been sought or not. If that is not being done, then obviously the senior officer in charge is also equally responsible, which has happened in this case, where a DCP and the officer of the level of additional director general are being laid accused.
Yeah, precisely.
So
and also these arrests now, and also the hunt for some of these officers is on just weeks ahead of the election. Syed Asad Abbas, what do you think the political ramifications of this can be?
Firstly, Deepak Sir, thank you very much for putting the Southern stories right there on the prime time on the national media. Thank you for this initiative, sir. Now, coming to the political ramifications, I've always believed, Deepak Sir, with great power, there are great responsibilities and equal accountability. Back then, when the Bharatiya Rashtra Samiti was in power, sir, we had Kalvakuntla Chandrasekhar Rao and his son KTR, who I thought are running the government in great books. I never ever could think a so-called progressive developmental politics, those who speak, be it KCR or KTR, would come to the front of phone tapping. In one of these very interesting interviews or podcasts, I had heard KTR speaking of his phone being tapped by Centre, by Modi ji, by the Bharatiya Janata Party ruling dispensation. It is quite amazed, I'm quite baffled to see the same thing being done by his own government. This is very unfortunate. I think politics has led a not so ethical front. I know we do hear everything is fair in love, war, and politics, but coming to this news, coming to this forefront is absolutely not okay. To me, as a millennial, I really looked up to the Telangana Rashtra Samiti or the Bharatiya Rashtra Samiti and the able leadership of KCR and KTR. But like they say, in the world of politics, everything is dirty. This is not acceptable, unwarranted, is not okay. So I think Revant Reddy is absolutely right in weeding out, getting to arrest all those leaders who are involved here, all those so-called police officers who are there to implement law and order are also part of this gimmickry. Whereas we do have a couple of them who are absconding, but I'm sure they will be brought to the books. I would largely say, being an election candidate in the year 2018, politics has come to this. Let me share a personal incident that took place. I would say in the year 2018, when I was contesting the Karnataka election, there is a twink sound which comes through, sir. When I did my research, I did find that there is a possibility where phones of individual candidates can be tapped. If this is the precedent that is set by any political party, it is absolutely not okay. We look for free and fair elections. I truly believe that
Right.
model code of conduct
Right, Abbas,
is in
but
place today. The Chief
unfortunately
Election
here, of course,
Commissioner-
this is a menace that needs to be dealt with. Like Mr. Jain was pointing out, following a process, following a protocol is essential here. And let's hope that, governments really bring in some checks and balances here so that it's not very easy to get away after this illegal tapping that time and again, comes into the picture from state governments, or these allegations are faced by the center as well. I'm thanking all our panelists for putting things into perspective here. We'll have to slip into a quick break. More news coming from southern India. Stay with us.